So imagine you are building a multi-million-dollar brand, like directly from your laptop.
Oh yeah, the classic direct-to-consumer dream.
Right. You are just dominating Facebook ads. You've got this incredibly loyal community, and, you're just crushing all your Shopify
Your
metrics.
warehouse is probably barely keeping up with all the orders.
Exactly. You feel like you've completely conquered the internet. But then you decide to make the leap into physical retail, and you get permanently rejected by a buyer at Target.
Which happens a lot more often than people think.
Yeah, and the crazy part is it's not because your product isn't amazing. It's because, like, your master cartons are a quarter-inch too wide for their automated scanners. Or maybe you just couldn't integrate with their EDI inventory system.
It is a brutal wake-up call for so many digital-first founders. I mean, because dominating the internet absolutely does not mean you are equipped to survive the highly calculated, incredibly unforgiving reality of physical retail.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are exploring this really comprehensive breakdown from Retailbound regarding what retail buyers actually look for in new and emerging brands.
Right.
Our mission today is to completely decode the mindset of a retail buyer. We're talking about how you make that massive leap from being an online success story where, you control every single variable of the customer experience to securing space on the shelves of Sephora or Whole Foods or Best Buy, where you really control very little.
Yeah, and it's so important to establish right up front why this matters for you, the listener, right now. Because it is incredibly tempting to look at the massive growth of e-commerce and just assume, well, physical retail is on its way out.
Oh, totally. People say retail is dead all the time.
Right, but the
Yeah.
reality is physical retail is evolving. It's not dying. Retailers are aggressively hunting for products that can do one very specific thing, which is drive physical foot traffic.
Make people actually walk into the store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to get on their radar, you have to fundamentally change how you view the retail buyer. Like you have to stop looking at them as trendsetters or, curators of cool things.
Right.
They are, first and foremost, the ultimate gatekeepers of shelf space profitability.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because if you want to successfully pitch a buyer, you first have to understand what keeps them up at night. And like you said, it's not aesthetics.
Yeah, not at all.
It is immense, unrelenting financial pressure. They evaluate their shelf space through these incredibly cold, strict metrics.
Very cold. I mean, think of a retail buyer less like a tastemaker and much more like a commercial real estate landlord.
A landlord, that makes sense.
Right, because they have a finite amount of square footage. And every single inch of that space needs to generate maximum rent. So they are judged on a few specific key performance indicators, mainly sales per square foot, gross margin, and inventory turnover.
Okay, so inventory turnover meaning like how fast the product actually leaves the shelf once it's placed there.
Exactly. If a product just sits there, it is actively costing the retailer money in holding costs.
Yeah.
And worse, it's taking up valuable real estate that could be given to a faster selling item.
So it's purely mathematical at that point.
Completely. If your incredibly innovative, beautifully branded product cannot mathematically prove that it will improve their sales per square foot and turnover quickly, well, your innovation is entirely useless to them.
See, here's where I have to push back a bit, because there seems to be this glaring contradiction in the source material we're looking at.
Oh, how so?
Well, on one hand, buyers are described as being highly, quote, risk-averse. But then in the very same section, it notes they are desperate for innovation.
Ah, right.
How can you possibly be both? I mean, if you want true innovation, you inherently have to take massive risks, right? That's how Silicon Valley works. You break things, you try wild new concepts.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how the legacy retail industry actually defines the word innovation, because it is very different from the tech world's definition.
Okay, how do they define it?
Well, you're right. In tech, innovation is synonymous with risk. But in physical retail, they actually despise wild, unpredictable experimentation. They want proven innovation. They need your brand to be a low-risk, high-reward investment.
Proven innovation. I mean, that sounds like a complete oxymoron to me.
It does sound like one.
Yeah.
But think about the tension they operate under. The buyer desperately needs fresh, exciting brands because they have to give shoppers a really compelling reason to get off their couch and physically walk into a brick-and-mortar store.
Right, rather than just clicking buy now on Amazon.
Exactly. But because that shelf space is so incredibly expensive and finite, they just cannot gamble on an unproven concept. They need absolute data-backed assurance that this new exciting product is actually going to sell through and, support the bottom line.
So they want a guaranteed hit. They want a sure thing that somehow still feels completely brand new to the consumer.
Yep, that's the holy grail.
Which immediately raises the question, how on earth does a brand actually prove that? Like, how do you walk into a boardroom and prove you fit this incredibly narrow, contradictory criteria?
Well, it starts with how you differentiate your product, but it requires a very specific type of differentiation, which the industry refers to as incremental innovation.
Okay, so I'm guessing incremental innovation means you aren't just offering a slightly better version of something they already have. Like, you have to bring a completely new customer to the aisle.
You hit the nail on the head. Let's go back to that commercial real estate metaphor. If a buyer already has 3 really successful brands of organic almond butter on their shelf, and you walk in pitching a 4th organic almond butter,
Even if it's really good almond butter.
even if it's the best, you're essentially a new tenant offering the exact same business as the 3 guys next door.
Right. Even if my almond butter tastes like 10% better, I'm not actually growing the total number of people walking down the aisle to buy almond butter. I'm just cannibalizing the sales of the other 3 brands. I'm basically slicing the exact same pie into smaller pieces, and that doesn't increase the buyer's overall sales per square foot at all.
Precisely. You haven't added value to the real estate, you've just added clutter. You aren't expanding the category. To truly demonstrate incremental innovation, you have to offer something that brings net new dollars to the shelf.
Right.
A really fantastic example of this is the beverage brand Olipop.
Oh, yeah. The prebiotic soda. I mean, they are absolutely everywhere right now.
They are a massive success story, but consider what they actually did mechanically. They didn't walk into a buyer meeting and say, hey, we made a slightly better tasting cola.
Right, because nobody cares.
Exactly. The traditional soda aisle was a stagnant, mature category. People were drinking less traditional soda overall. But Olipop disrupted the space by offering a functional benefit gut health via prebiotics inside a very familiar format.
So they gave a consumer who maybe hadn't walked down the soda aisle in like 5 years because they quit drinking sugary colas a brand new reason to go back to that aisle.
Exactly. They captured a health-conscious consumer and brought their wallet into a traditionally unhealthy category. They literally expanded the total footprint of the aisle's revenue.
Wow.
That is true incremental innovation.
That makes perfect sense. You absolutely have to prove you are expanding the pie. But even if you have that killer hook like gut health in a soda, the buyer is still a gatekeeper who is terrified of risk.
Very terrified.
Having a cool concept doesn't prove it will sell. You have to back it up.
You have to bring the empirical data. You cannot walk into a pitch relying on hunch or just telling a buyer, trust me, millennials are going to love this.
Right, that won't fly.
And this is exactly where your background as a digital-first direct-to-consumer brand becomes your greatest weapon. You actually have the digital receipt.
Because I own all the customer data from my Shopify store.
Exactly. You don't just walk in with generic market research. You leverage your highly specific DTC sales data.
Oh, I see.
So if you are pitching a regional buyer for a grocery chain in, say, the Pacific Northwest, you pull your geographic heat maps. You show them your customer acquisition costs, your lifetime value metrics, and your repeat purchase rates specifically for zip codes in Washington and Oregon.
I love this strategy. It's like a baseball player walking into a major league scouting meeting and dropping their actual batting average on the table, rather than just taking a few practice swings and promising they have a really good eye for the ball.
That is a great way to look at it.
You are essentially saying, look at these spreadsheets. Thousands of people in a 5-mile radius of your stores are currently paying a $7 shipping fee and waiting 3 days just to get my product. Imagine the velocity we'll see when they can just grab it off your shelf today.
It is the ultimate de-risking maneuver.
Huh.
You are neutralizing the buyer's fear by proving that the demand isn't theoretical. The trend, whether it's clean label, plant-based, sustainable packaging, whatever, it is active, it's localized, and it is currently being monetized in their exact territory.
Okay, so you have the incremental innovation that expands the category. You have the hardcore DTC data to prove localized demand. But this next hurdle is where the door can aggressively slam in your face, no matter how good your product is.
Oh yeah, the underlying math.
The make or break retail math. Because at the end of the day, you can have the most innovative product on earth, but if the retailer can't make their required margin, the conversation is just over.
It's completely over. Generally speaking, physical retailers require a 40 to 50% margin, depending on the specific category and the retailer's overhead.
Wait, 40 to 50%, I really want to pause on that. Because if you are used to selling direct to consumer, where you capture the entire retail price, losing 50% of the pie just for shelf space sounds agonizing. Let's break down how that actually works mechanically.
Sure. So let's say your product has a suggested retail price, your SRP of $20. If the retailer requires a 50% margin, that means your wholesale price to them has to be $10.
And out of that $10, I still have to pay for my ingredients, my manufacturing, my packaging, my freight to get it to their warehouse?
Exactly. And if you use a middleman distributor, which many brands have to do to reach thousands of stores, that distributor takes another 15 to 20% cut before the retailer even gets it.
Wow.
So suddenly you might only be taking home $7 or $8 on a product that sells for $20. If your cost of goods sold is $6, you are barely surviving. This is why you absolutely must engineer your pricing structure from the shelf backward before you ever sit down with a buyer.
The math just has to be flawless. But here is where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit frustrating if I put myself in the shoes of a brand founder. There's this concept called a MAP policy, a minimum advertised price policy.
Really?
Let me make sure I'm understanding the mechanics of this correctly. As a brand, I have to legally police my own prices on the internet, like on my own website and on Amazon, just to make sure I don't accidentally make the physical brick and mortar store look bad.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
It is a non-negotiable requirement for almost every major retail buyer.
But if I'm the listener and I'm used to running a, 30% off flash sale on Shopify at the end of the month to boost my cash flow, adopting a strict MAP policy feels like putting myself in a financial straitjacket. I'm purposely hobbling my own online sale.
It definitely feels restrictive. But if you look at the mechanics of showrooming, you'll understand why the retailer demands it. Imagine a customer walking into a physical Target or a Sephora. They pick up your product, they test it, they read the label, they fall in love with it.
Okay.
Then, while standing right there in the aisle, they pull out their smartphone, Google your product, and see that you are running a massive discount on your own website. Or maybe some third-party seller has it for 25% less.
So they just buy it on their phone and walk out of the store. The retailer essentially just acted as a free, highly lit showroom for my website.
Exactly. The physical retailer is bearing all the immense overhead costs, the rent, the electricity, the employees, the insurance, only to lose the sale to someone with a cheap warehouse and a Wi-Fi connection.
That makes total sense when you put it that way.
Right. So the MAP policy legally prevents this.
Yeah.
It ensures that no matter where the customer looks online, the price is generally the exact same as it is on the physical shelf. It creates ecosystem harmony and protects the retailer's massive structural investment.
Okay, so the math and the MAP policy protect the retailer's bottom line. But what protects the brand from just becoming a commoditized widget? Because if the buyer only cares about margins and sales per square foot, anyone with a cheaper factory can eventually just undercut you.
True.
This is where the core values of a brand come into play, right? Things like being a certified B Corp, ethical sourcing, or being minority owned.
Yes, absolutely. The buyer is cold and calculating about the math, but they know that the end consumer is not. Consumers increasingly vote with their wallets based on identity and values.
Right.
The math is the foundation. Without it, you can't even get in the building. But the brand's heart, its authentic story, that is the protective moat.
Because a compelling story gives the retailer a marketing angle.
Exactly. Buyers actively look for brands that stand for something authentic because it elevates the entire aesthetic of their store. It allows the retailer to build promotional campaigns around sustainability or community impact.
It gives them a narrative.
Right. It creates an emotional connection and a deep brand loyalty that pure, sterile math simply cannot achieve.
All right, let's fast forward a bit. Let's say you've nailed everything we just talked about. You have a flawless margin structure, an authentic tearjerker of a brand story, and, I don't know, a prebiotic almond butter that's going to revolutionize the aisle.
Sounds delicious.
Right. But none of that matters if you trip over the unsexy, gritty reality of retail operations.
Oh, logistics. The ultimate graveyard for emerging brands.
Yep.
The fundamental question a buyer is asking themselves is, can you actually execute? If I hand you a purchase order for 10,000 units to supply 500 stores, can you ship them on time, in full, without causing a massive headache for my supply chain team?
Which is a terrifying leap if you've spent the last 3 years shipping, like, individually bubble-wrapped items out of a small fulfillment center.
Very terrifying.
What does that operational jump actually look like behind the scenes?
It is a massive shift in compliance. Retailers operate on incredibly strict automated systems. We are talking about mandatory EDI integration.
Wait, what does EDI stand for again?
Electronic data interchange,
Mhm.
which basically means your computer systems have to talk directly to their computer systems for purchase orders and invoicing. No manual emails allowed.
Wow. So you literally have to upgrade your entire tech stack just to take their order.
Yes. And then there is the physical compliance. They will have strict routing guides detailing exactly how boxes must be stacked on a pallet, what the maximum crush weight can be so the bottom boxes don't collapse, where the barcodes must be placed for their automated warehouse scanners to read them as they fly down a conveyor belt.
And if you don't follow those rules, like what if your truck driver hits traffic and arrives at the distribution center 2 hours past their delivery window?
You get hit with chargebacks.
Ouch.
Yeah, the retailer will literally deduct money from the invoice they owe you as a penalty for the delay or the non-compliant pallets. And if you consistently fail to keep the shelf stocked, or if you cause too many logistical headaches, they will simply discontinue you.
You just get kicked out.
You will lose your placement. The cardinal rule here is never overpromise and underdeliver on your supply chain capabilities. Losing a buyer's trust on logistics is usually a fatal blow.
So let's talk about the actual pitch meeting, the moment of truth. Because getting your logistics tightened up to earn the meeting is one thing, but how you present in that room dictates if you actually get the PO.
Right.
What are the specific mechanics of a successful pitch?
First, the deck itself. It must be heavily visual and entirely data-driven. A buyer sees dozens of pitches a week. They do not want to read a novel on a screen.
Keep it punchy.
Exactly. You must immediately answer 4 fundamental questions. What is the product? Why is it incrementally different? What is the margin structure? How are you going to help me sell it?
But what really caught my eye in the source was the requirement for physical samples. It notes that if you were having a casual introductory chat, sure, a prototype or a mock-up is fine.
Yeah.
But if you were in a formal pitch asking for real shelf space, bringing a mock-up is a massive red flag.
It is a huge red flag.
Yay.
A buyer needs to experience the product exactly as the consumer will experience it on the shelf. If it's a food item, they need to taste the exact final formulation. If it's skincare, they need to feel the final texture. And most importantly, it has to be in its absolute final, retail-ready packaging. The packaging is critical because, in the retail industry, your packaging is known as your silent salesman.
I think silent salesman is the perfect term because it really highlights the stark difference between DTC and physical retail. Like, online, you have a whole landing page, a 3-minute video, customer reviews, all this space to explain why your product is amazing.
Exactly.
On a physical shelf, you have about 3 seconds to grab someone's attention as they push a shopping cart past you.
You aren't standing in aisle 4 explaining the benefits to every passing customer. If that box doesn't pop visually in a crowded environment, or if a customer can't immediately understand what the product does just by glancing at the typography, you are dead in the water.
Makes total sense.
The buyer needs to hold that physical package, turn it over in their hands, and know instantly that it will command attention.
Let's anchor this with a couple of case studies, because looking at brands that really mastered this silent salesman concept brings it to life. Take Chobani in the yogurt aisle.
A classic example. I mean, Chobani didn't invent yogurt, obviously, but they fundamentally revolutionized the American dairy aisle.
Yeah, they really did.
They proved to skeptical buyers that consumers were actually willing to pay a premium price for a thicker, higher protein, more authentic Greek yogurt. But they communicated that premium quality through their distinct, wider cup shape and vibrant packaging. They created an entirely new standard that completely redefined consumer expectations for the whole category.
And then you look at Method in the cleaning aisle. I clearly remember when they first launched at Target. If you think about the traditional cleaning aisle, it looks like a hazardous waste zone.
Oh, totally.
Lots of neon yellow liquids in these aggressive, purely utilitarian spray bottles covered in warning labels.
And then Method arrives with these beautifully sleek, minimalist, design-forward bottles. They disrupted a category historically driven by toxic chemicals by offering non-toxic ingredients wrapped in stunning packaging.
It didn't even look like soap.
Right. They proved to buyers that dish soap and surface cleaners didn't have to be ugly things you hide under the kitchen sink. They could be lifestyle accessories that you proudly display on your counter. Their packaging was the ultimate silent salesman, and it secured them massive, category-leading national distribution.
It completely changed the aesthetic rules of the game. But here is the critical thing, and perhaps the biggest rookie mistake that trips up founders making this transition: assuming that getting the product on the shelf is the finish line.
Oh, absolutely. This is where so many incredible brands just bleed out and fail.
Because the natural instinct is like, I did it. I survived the margin negotiations, I got my EDI systems working, my silent salesman packaging looks beautiful,
Yeah.
and my product is finally sitting on an end cap at Target.
Yep.
Isn't it the store's job to sell it now? They are the retailer.
No, and thinking that way is a fatal flaw. The reality is, retailers expect you, the brand, to drive the traffic into their stores to buy your product.
So I'm basically acting as their external marketing department.
In many ways, yes. You have to provide in-store demo support to put boots on the ground and get people tasting or trying the product. You must execute a robust, geo-targeted digital marketing plan specifically designed to push your online audience into those physical retail locations.
Wow.
You cannot just sit back, wipe your hands, and expect the retailer to do the heavy lifting of customer acquisition for you. They provide the real estate, you provide the hype.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, if you're plotting your retail strategy? If we zoom out and look at the total picture of what buyers demand, breaking into physical retail is a grueling marathon. It requires a perfect storm.
It really does.
You need the strict financial math to perfectly align with their required margins. You need the unsexy, ironclad operational excellence to navigate EDI compliance and chargebacks. And you need true incremental innovation backed by localized DTC data. You cannot just be another almond butter hoping to steal market share.
It is an incredibly high bar to clear. But the rewards of national distribution, the volume, the brand credibility, the sheer scale, are immense for the brands that can survive the gauntlet.
Absolutely.
But, this dynamic we just discussed raises an incredibly important question for you to mull over as you think about taking your brand to the next level.
Yeah.
We just established that retailers expect the brand to drive the traffic to their physical stores. Think about the long-term implications of that.
I'm listening.
If your brand is doing all the digital marketing to get people in the door, if your brand is funding all the incremental innovation and R&D to make their aisles interesting, if your brand is absorbing the intense supply chain risks and capital costs of scaling up, and you are even handcuffing your own direct-to-consumer pricing with MAP policies just to protect the physical store's margin,
Right.
at what point does the physical retailer actually need the brand more than the brand needs the retailer?
Oh, wow. That is a fantastic point. If you've already built a massive, loyal audience out there on the internet, and you are doing all the heavy lifting to bring those exact people into the physical store yourself, who is really providing the value to who? Are you leveraging their real estate, or are they just leveraging your community?
Exactly.
That is definitely something to think deeply about as you decide where to allocate your capital next. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.